don't get recruited to this next best opportunity, because a lot of times it's very similar to what you're already doing. Sometimes I was just like, I don't get that. And the agency and IMO is not going to make you successful. It's going to be you.
Welcome to today's episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. My name is Adam Burson.
And I'm Chris Smith.
If you've yet to do so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you love this podcast, don't forget to share it with a friend or colleague. We greatly appreciate your help and support.
I came up with the idea this weekend to have none other than Johnny Nitafan on with us this morning. Whenever it's released or you watch it later, it's still going to be awesome because we have on another special guest today. Johnny, introduce yourself to the 5 people and a cat who are watching, and then we'll get into today's conversation.
Yeah, Johnny Nitafan, been a licensed agent just past my 3-year mark, which is awesome. So it's whenever I know my licensure date comes up whenever my anniversary hits. So I have my anniversary after I got married. A month later, was working at Starbucks, and I was like, hey, I need to figure out actually how to make money. Because working full time and making $2,000-$2,500 a month is just not going to cut it, especially with the long term, right? And I'm walking in bigger shoes, or have to fill bigger shoes, because my father-in-law, he actually sold his insurance brokerage 2 or 3 years before my wife and I got married. So it's like, okay, when you have a 7 to 8 figure payday, you have big shoes to fill, because obviously that's now an unset expectation, right? So I got into the life insurance license at that point, but I started cold door knocking for businesses, and I was selling employee benefits. Did that for about 3 months. In the meantime, I was listening to a lot of life insurance content, and I was like, why should I cold door knock and do this business to business stuff when I saw my father-in-law do it, and he built it up, which is awesome, but it took him 30 years to do. And I'm hearing these people making 20, 30, 40,000 a month from home without having to do all this stuff. And you work leads. This is insane. So that's the route that I decided to take. I remember the first time I told my wife, it was in January. This is about a month or 2 after I've been cold door knocking for a while. I was like, hey, I really want to do this life insurance thing. I could be making 20 to 40,000 a month over the phone. And she's like, what MLM or what kind of scam are you like, have you listened to? That's crazy. And so then at that point, I was like, all right, maybe she's right. Maybe it's not all that, but I kept listening to it. And then 2 months later, I was like, no, this is like serious. I definitely need to do this. Made the jump, flew out to my first life insurance event. At that time, was working for a really bigger name agency. And so that was really cool. Got my entrance into the life insurance side. Long story short, fast forward from then, I made a lot of mistakes my first year in the business. 5 weeks into being like officially licensed, I was on the Ultimate Agent, which for a young kid to do all that stuff was awesome. But I made a lot of mistakes that I'm not afraid to admit. And I was with like 5 different IMOs my first year officially being in life insurance. So if you could just imagine that type of person, I definitely wasn't. I was definitely a kid trying to grow up and trying to figure it all out. And all these people talking to me thinking that their agency's the way that I could make my 7 figures a year, whatever it is. I just listened to it, and I was kept getting recruited, and it was my decision, obviously. But you don't understand the industry until the industry eats you up and spits you out, right? And so I was like, wow, all these good people, I left to join other people, and then I do all these people dirty in the whole time. Like it was just a mess, honestly. So I tried to find my way, and in that time, I went ghost for like 3 months. Decided to join and partner up with David Duford at that time, and started making life insurance content, pretty much about the mistakes I've made, lessons I've learned, so that other people wouldn't fall into those mistakes. And so been doing that, posting on YouTube for the past like 2 years now, and have had a lot of success since then. I would say relative, and excited for the future for sure, especially in 2025, going out and not only just replicating the results for other people, but then also building up and really becoming like a full agency owner on 2 different ways. So it'll be exciting. It'll be fun. I'm learning a lot, and I definitely don't know enough. And so I'm constantly trying to learn and figure it out. So
Awesome.
appreciate you guys having me on. And I love what you guys are doing here. It's awesome. And it's
Appreciate
real
it.
and it's authentic, right? Some of the stuff I see you guys, you're reacting to stuff or asking questions on. I'm like, wow, I definitely would not have posted this, but it's real. And I think it's what everybody's thinking. So it's like I'm glad somebody has to say it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, quick question, and I appreciate the introduction, the background, and I think it leads in perfectly to this, I think, passion project that started to develop over the weekend.
Yeah.
You've failed your way through a couple places, found some solid ground. Like that's life. Like
Yeah.
we all fail our way out of something. I'm starting this new passion concept project idea called Auto Terminate at 10K.
Okay.
And I'm petitioning the carriers. We're talking to American Amicable already. And I think if one of them will do it, the others will catch on because they all want to be like each other anyway. We all want to be like each other anyway. The carriers are the same way. And considering your past struggles, your current success, and the fact that a lot of people leave people like us debt and it never makes its way to the
Mm,
top of the hierarchy, it gets eaten up somewhere over here. I
yeah.
want these carriers to consider just cutting people off at 10K so it protects people like us.
Yeah.
Knowing your experience in the industry, your successes and your struggles, what do you think that would do to protect mid-level guys like us trying to build and grow an agency?
It's actually interesting, especially like stepping into the agency building space. It's something that like I've had to think about, okay, what are the guidelines? What are the things I want to put in place to be able to make sure I'm protected? Because it's not going to roll to anybody else. It's like I'm directly responsible for that. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think it's you got to build. I was thinking about like a social credit system in a way. It's like, hey, your cutoff's gonna like my internal cadence is like, hey, we're gonna there's gonna be an auto shut off that I have internally that we shut agents off at like if it goes over 5K or 10K or whatever. And then as I continue to build the relationship, that will increase because just based on what I've heard and based on just getting advice and input from other agency owners, it typically somebody won't stay with you for a long time and then do that out like just out of the blue. It'll typically be for the first few policies or whatever. They'll see what they like people can get away with. And so I think it's a really good idea to at least have a standard that's set and then that could be increased over time if
Mhm.
it made sense. I think that's a really good idea, especially with like just red flags that might pop up. Somebody hasn't written business, they've been contracted for 6 months. All of a sudden, in a day, they write 10 grand. It's like that's interesting. I'd want to like I think that's really good to at least put safeguards and safe rails in place to protect. I think that's actually a really good idea, especially with one carrier.
Mhm.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
Yeah, Adam, I know that you have a lot of experience managing, producing, supporting, building, living in general. Can an agent that's doing the business the right way, buying leads, selling policies, building relationships, writing business, can they ethically run up 10K in a single carrier? I just don't believe that can happen if you're doing it the
I
right
don't
way.
think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. They definitely have something like not figured out
Mhm.
if that's what they're doing because I don't know. At the end of the day, I mean, heck, I mean, me and you, Chris, and Johnny. I don't really know your situation as far as production goes, and if you have debts or
Yeah.
whatnot. But I do know, me and Chris. I mean, we're consistently writing business still, consistently ordering leads, and I mean, right now, I can't think of one carrier that I owe more than maybe $1,500
Yeah.
to, outside
Yeah.
of one that I have a big roll up debt to.
Yeah.
I'm doing
I would
stuff the right
say
way. You write the business. It's yeah.
Yeah, I would say like I did have that happen to me once and by the way it's all paid off now. And it was the way that certain carrier pays comp structure like pays out and so it's like you don't have a chargeback until the back end of it, right? And so
Mhm.
they pay 60%
Okay.
advance. And so that's kind of a tricky situation. I think that that's just a horrible model just in general because agents don't feel it a chargeback right away and don't have to immediately pay it, but it stacks up on the back end. And so that's an interesting thing. One of the lessons that I learned is like, hey, that type of, if it sounds too good to be true, there's some way, shape, or form that you're going to get wrecked on it. And I honestly, like, that's what happened to me, right? Being a producer, even if you write 150, 200 grand and say 20% fall off or whatever it is, you're still going to have that amount of chargebacks on the back end, that back pay is supposed to have. And so that's what happened to me, just transparently. And so I think that's something that I learned, that I was like, I'm never gonna do that again, because that comp structure is just weird, if that makes sense. And anybody in the industry that's been around for more than a month or two knows and understands probably the carrier I'm talking about. But I think that type of structure is really, I think, the only way that could actually happen, and people still continuing to do that. So
I think
other
that
than that, like, if you're with like a carrier that gives an immediate chargeback that doesn't delay it on the back end, I think there's no way that could happen, especially as a solo producer with one carrier. It shouldn't
yeah.
happen.
And the agent force itself needs to speak up and speak with its production and speak with its higher relationships to the carriers to be able to say it's eating us alive, and we need to find a way to kind of clamp down on it. I don't think there's any problem with advance caps. I don't think there's any problem with hiring a financial company to watch our books, but we need them to watch our backs and say, all right, fine. The whole thing gets shut off when it hits a certain point, because we know that we need our distribution partners to be able to distribute the products that we've created. Personal ownership. A lot of agents struggle with it.
Yeah.
It seems like you've really come to grips with what that means in your own success journey. Can you talk about taking personal ownership in your success?
Yeah, I think there's the number one thing is, one certain avenue and opportunity isn't going to make you successful. It's going to come on you at the end of the day. And I thought for the longest time, if there's certain ways of comp structures, or there's certain little things and little details, like, everything is relatively the same, unless if you're like in a recruiting based company that they start you on a low comp and the only way to move up is by recruiting. But like, for the most part, a lot of them are fairly similar. Obviously, as you build, it's going to be, they all split off in different ways, and there's different IMOs and agencies that have that. But I think the biggest thing for me is, I was like, okay, for me to actually make six figures a year, it's going to be this one single opportunity. And then once I see that specific opportunity, somebody break it apart, and they're like, yo, you need to leave this place to go to that place. And honestly, like, looking back, it's all relatively the same. I think that's something that I messed up really early on. And that's one thing I talk a lot about, is like, don't get recruited to this next best opportunity, because a lot of times it's very similar to what you're already doing. Like, sometimes I was just like, I don't get that. And the agency and IMO is not going to make you successful. It's going to be you. So I think that's number one. Also, like, a special comp plan is not going to make you more rich than another one. I think there's levels to that. So I'm talking specifically to a solo producer right
Mhm.
now. Um, that's another thing. I think also I recruited way too early on. And before I just believed my upline, agency owners, whatever it is. And I think there's a healthy level of trust that you should have. But recruiting before you ever have success yourself, I think, is a really dangerous territory that you have. And you enter into an interesting relationship with your upline, because it's like, I'm literally putting everything into you, and say this, there's different things that come that I don't know about, whether that's chargebacks, whether that's the leads that I'm working right now aren't, like, they're just, it's not the best way to do it this specific way. There's a different way, whatever it is. You can't speak to that with experience and specificity. And so you have to lean on your upline, that your upline may or may not know. And there's very few agents that are really, like, understand the industry up and down, left and right. And so I think there's a lot of trust that has to be had with the upline. But if you start recruiting before and you don't know these landmines that somebody could fall into, then it's an interesting relationship that you have with the agent that you recruited. So I would say for me, those are just the pitfalls that I fell into early on, is that I'm like, okay, well, what else am I supposed to do with all these people reaching out to me because they watched Ultimate Agent? It's, of course you recruit them, right?
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm not even a seasoned producer at that point. I've been in the business 3 to 4 months. Like, it's not enough time to actually prove stuff out and actually see results and see success. And so that was another challenge that I faced at a really early stage, which I think looking back now, it'd be hard to say that I would get to this spot where I'm at today if I didn't go through that. Because I look at the industry with a lot of optimism, but also like it's not with rose-colored glasses because I've had a lot happen to me that I got screwed on, and also I messed other people up too. And I don't have that perfect relationship, but that's what I would say
How
for
were you
sure.
seeked out for that show? I was kind of curious, that
Oh my
ultimate agent.
gosh.
Like, how did that come about?
I mean, what's nice is like when you go to these conferences, like it was hard because I went to one, I was on like a panel at one of Cody's 8% road shows, which was really cool. And that one, it's like that was before the show happened, but then the show happened the week of 8%. So I went to 8%, and it's like you get there and there's like a red carpet, like actually, and then you're taking pictures and everybody wants to talk to you and take pictures and share their moments with you, which is like super awesome. But it's like, how do you handle all this stuff? It's a very niche celebrity, if that makes sense. Like nobody around me understands what this is, but then people who actually are in the industry are like, oh dude, like just a lot of people reaching out via socials or like in person, like a lot of people coming up to you, exchanging numbers. Um, a recruiting is just through the roof as far as like, hey, I want to work with you. Hey, I want to work with you. But you don't know, like at that point, I didn't know how to recruit. So it's just kind of like, all right, cool, sign up, sign up, sign up, sign up. But you have all these people that are coming in that it's like, you don't know how to train. You don't know how to develop. You don't have the systems and processes in place to actually help this person be successful. So it was it was a lot for the time. But I think what's interesting is you think about it like I think about that time and I don't think I honestly and I could be proven wrong. I'm totally open to this, but I think that just because you have that boost doesn't mean that you're actually going to do something with it. And I would say that like in that time, I at least knew that I'm going to put fuel on this fire that's coming. And I don't think that everybody on the show that had the same exact opportunity that actually went further along in the competition are still around to this day. I really don't. And so you gotta like it. Just because I was on the show doesn't mean I would get here to today because there's a lot of stuff that I've had to do personally to make sure that I've stayed relevant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder. I
So
never thought about going back and looking up some of the people that filmed with you to find out what they're doing now or where they're working now or if they're working now, because
yeah,
we don't realize how much churn there really is in the business. And
dude, it's
that,
crazy.
yeah, and I don't mean this as an offensive to Cody, but I remember going to 8% and 92% of people fail. And then I went to another one and 92% of the people were new. Like, wait a second. There is so much churn to the business. And
Yeah,
it's because I think a lot of times, like you're saying, people don't realize the common denominator in the issue is not the IMO, but themselves.
yeah,
Like we're talking to personal producers. We're not talking to mid-level agencies. We're not talking to top line builders. We're talking like the street level phone or field producer. 5 points isn't going to make or break you. 30 might change the game. One lead type versus the other. It says this, it says that. Carrier this, carrier that. It's
yeah.
you. Like, are you going to go out there and dial the phone or knock the door and do the base level activity? But when you get bigger, and that's a different conversation altogether. But people are constantly going from one place to the next. And I think as much as a lot of people wanted to work with you after Ultimate Agent, a lot of people probably wanted to recruit you as well.
Oh,
So that
dude, it was
probably
through the
created a
roof.
lot of challenge as well, right?
Oh, dude, for sure. And that's why it's hard. Like, it's hard for when somebody's like, "Hey, I want to do exactly how you got to where you're at." I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that like I go all in. There's a guy that flew me out to his house and like great dude. And I really appreciate like what he did. But then a few months later, I'm recruited to a different place. And it's like for that to happen, like I just couldn't handle it, to be honest. I didn't know like, okay, what you're saying is all true and what you're saying is all right, but also there's selfish gain inside of that. And so it's like that was right after I got recruited from another guy is when I went out to this place, and then I left a few months later. So I think that was really tricky waters to be in because everybody is like understands the opportunity that they have with all of your flow coming in and all of these people reaching out to you wanting to work with you. It's like, hey, any upline would be like, hey, I definitely want 70 people, 100 people coming from this dude. It's just a matter of a race to be able to find it. So, yeah, I mean, I went through 3 IMO transitions from Ultimate Agent to I went from an IMO, I left there, then I went back to that same IMO, then I left that IMO. It was a mess and it was a nightmare. And I don't
recommend it.
Yeah, exactly. And I share that stuff because that's the stuff I've been fearful. This podcast, in a lot of ways, I haven't gone on and like talked about a lot of this because I've been afraid of it for like so long. But I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to share that stuff and be like, hey, I'm a broken person just like everybody else in this business, and I
Mhm.
made a lot of mistakes in that, and I think a lot of people could understand at least a level of like, hey, I'm not perfect either, and I don't claim to be at all. So I just wanted to share that
Yeah.
and make it a point to be that, especially coming on here.
Yeah, Adam, I think so many people on social media are so absolutely fake. They're not willing to be transparent. And Johnny could have easily said on Saturday when I reached out, no thanks, because he probably knows, like I know, that if you put someone on camera for longer than 20 minutes, they're going to start opening up about things in their life.
Yeah.
And that's different than what most people are used to on social media. It's always so fake, so inauthentic, so not real that it's so hard to figure out what's true or not. And when people are actually willing to open up about what worked and what didn't, that's the kind of stuff that I really wish would get more traction. And I'm sure Johnny will help us do.
I just think anybody who's been in the business more than a few years, they all get it. They all understand. Yeah, there's a lot of ups, but there's also a lot of downs. And if
Yeah.
someone tells you going in that there's not, they haven't experienced any of that, that it's all just been, sunshine and rainbows for 2, 3, 4 years. Well, there's no way. I mean, I wish every day I could say was the greatest day out there, but not every day goes the way that we expect. I always say the good
Yeah.
days make up for the bad. But
Mhm.
people that succeed in this business are ones that have worked their way through some tough times, in my opinion.
And I've
I
really
would,
thought about it,
but
like, as I've kinda looked at, just the industry in general, I think a lot like, most sales industries have really high churn.
the high churn of the
Yeah.
business probably has a lot to do with the fact that so many times people aren't willing to give realistic expectations of what it takes and how to do it and all those things that come with the reality of a difficult entrepreneurship journey. One of the things I also found
Uh-oh.
interesting, and
He'll be
hopefully we'll
back.
get him back on in a minute, is Johnny does a lot with Instagram. I didn't really do anything with Instagram until I lost my Facebook for a week and had to figure out other ways to get out there. But I think it's interesting, all the marketing he's putting out there, all the effort he's putting into advertising, all the effort he's putting into building this business, because so many times people would go through all those situations and then just quit altogether. I mean, Adam, look what happened with Dana Neeson last week. She's out the door with Lincoln. Everyone in the industry wants to do the fly her out and feed her and recruit her. But it takes time to figure out what's the best next steps to make. So I think it's interesting to hear that from his perspective as well. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it before. You've lived it. I've both lived it. The famous fly out and feed you recruiting pitch.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts about that marketing strategy? Because I see some validity to it, but sometimes it seems a little inauthentic too.
I mean, I don't mind it. I mean,
Me neither.
I've done
I don't
it.
know.
I had carriers fly me out to their home offices, IMOs fly me out to their home offices a few times, and yeah, a lot of the whining and dining. And I remember one company, they flew me out there, and yeah, the whole whining and dining, they took me out golfing. I remember I had a really bad golf day. And I was just joking around with this company, and I told them, "Hey, at least you know that I'm not out golfing all day. That I'm actually out working. Because if I was really, really good at this, I might not be spending enough time out in the field, right, in business."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just kind
It's
of
fun.
jokingly there. But overall, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't mind it. But at the end of the day, I mean, is it necessary? Uh, I don't know. I
I don't
think
know.
agents do like to feel like they are wanted and like they're important. But to me, it's more, I mean, that's just a lot of upfront
Fluff.
sort of stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Upfront fluff that doesn't really show what the true uh, what the true company or what the true feelings will be of, I guess, what to look forward to with those carriers or IMOs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to it than just it's kind of like you can't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, I think people need to be careful of it, enjoy the experience, but also look for the actual meat and potatoes behind the fluff. Because anyone can get you a Southwest ticket, buyouts, and feed you events, but the practical application is what's going to put money in your bank account with whatever the systems there are. Johnny, it's good to have you back. I wanted to take the last couple minutes of our time together today and get your opinion on marketing on social media, because I was getting ready for my day and I saw you on Instagram before I even got to see you today. Talk to us about what you're looking to
Let's
do on
go.
social media.
Oh, dude, it's one of those things. I think the thing that fuels me is like, hey, I want to give the lessons without the scars in it, right? Like what the whole thing and whole idea of this whole time that we've kind of been talking here is I just want other people to be able to learn and understand what's on the other side. The grass isn't always greener, and be able to truly see this industry for what it is, because there's a lot of people out there that want to recruit you, just want uh see an opportunity, they want to pour in, invest, and they want to make money back, and that's this business, that's life, that's just what happens. Everybody wants to be able to make a deal of that, but I want to really empower like somebody to be like, hey, here's all my lessons, here's everything that I've learned, and please don't make the same mistake if you get the opportunity to. And so I think that's like the biggest thing driving it. And I think with social media, it's like real estate. I think it's an asset that continues to compile. So I'm glad that you saw the ads. It's obviously targeting the right people, which is cool. But that's something that especially like I went really hard last year. This year, really hoping to do the same thing and continue to grow and expand and really help the people in the life insurance space. If you don't know about the life insurance industry, really start to understand that it is a really awesome opportunity to be in, but if you do it the right way. And there is a way to do it the right way and build something really awesome for clients, for agents, and everybody to be able to win in that. So that's really the goal of social media and pushing on there.
One last question, and I'll turn it over to Adam. I've always wondered this. Maybe there is no perfect answer to this, but you've been around a lot of good marketing folks like Cody and David and such. Is it the engagement, in your opinion and your knowledge, the engagement that the content gets, or the amount of content you produce that grows your audience?
I mean, there's two different ways to be able to grow the audience. I think it's obviously there's paid advertising and then there's organic. And so if you want to go down that route, it really depends a lot on that. But I definitely will say you want to do volume first, do like quantity, and you guys have been doing that. And that's quantity, but then you want to go quality is what I've seen in just the people that I've paid to be able to really understand and learn on that side. And it also depends what channel you're trying to grow on, right? TikTok and growing on Instagram is going to be very different just because they're short form. There's different strategies to go and be in there, but then also on YouTube, same thing. So I think for you guys, what you guys talk about is so. I was talking to a guy that I work with about this channel, and it's like back office. It's like in the office insurance talk. And it's something that like nobody will understand except like people who get the industry. Like even people new in the industry, a lot of the stuff that you're saying, it goes straight over their head. They don't understand, don't know what that is. They don't know how to comprehend that. Um they don't know what Dana Neeson leaving Lincoln means. But like
Mhm.
us, we're like, dude, what the heck? And then there's like all these people that are like big in the industry. You get Jeff Root going in there, you get Chris talking, you get like all these people start commenting on one post. It's like, holy cow. But it's very niche of a niche of a niche that most people won't understand. They won't understand like having an admin for a back office. It's just kind of like these a solo agent wouldn't even understand. So it's like you guys are talking to a very, very, very specific person, which is interesting. That I think agency owners, you guys are very like in the traditional model, which is like awesome, and I love it, and that's why I eat it up because I'm like, this is like what I said at the beginning. This is the stuff that if you understand insurance, you'll love this. But if you don't even like the industry, what you're going to be saying is just going to fly over people's heads. So I think It's if you guys specifically were wanting to grow towards a mass market, towards the whole life insurance space, I think some of the terminology, some of the stuff is just insurance talk, and try to broaden
Mhm.
it to a beginner is what I would definitely say. Because there's levels to it. There's a Cody, but then there's also you guys. You guys are in the same industry and same space, but who he's talking to, it appears to be very different than who you guys would be talking to as well. And even what we talked about on this, right? Like the auto shut off at 10K, a solo
Mhm.
producer will be
Why would you
against
take my
it,
money
but an
away from
agent,
me? Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
These guys don't want these agents to win, but it's like for you guys are talking agency talk. And for agency owners, it's like really, really, really good content. So
Appreciate it.
yeah.
Closing
Yeah.
thoughts, Adam?
Yeah, well, maybe not quite closing. I was kind of curious because I know you're real big into telesales, right?
Yeah.
Um, what exactly, like, what are you doing? Like, how are a majority of your marketing? Is it like just through Facebook? And,
Facebook. Yeah.
I tried building a telesales platform a couple years ago, and I mean, I think that I built it right. Honestly, I just don't feel like I had the patience for it. It was a lot of dialing, a lot of phone calls, and just the second I get someone on the phone, it's like, finally, I got somebody on the line. And then you say one wrong thing, or you could be having a really good conversation with the person, and
Yeah.
then you give them a quote, and then the line's dead. Like they didn't like the
Yeah.
quote, you never have a chance to talk to that person ever again. So
Hmm.
like I didn't have the patience for it. And I know those that do really well. I'm just kind of curious, what your platform is like, and how you guys have been successful with it.
So, okay, there's a few things to really go into on this, and we could literally do a whole thing separate to this. But I think few fundamentals that you want to understand is like number one is dialing is your activity, dialing is your drive time. So just like how you have drive time in field sales, you're gonna have the same thing. It's
Yeah.
just dial time over the phone. That's what it is, right? It also is a volume game, so you got to have a lot of things. So you got to have a lot of leads, and so
Hmm.
generating a good quality lead but also a volume of leads is stuff that you want to make sure that you have a lot of. Another thing is you want a local present spam free dialer. So Kixie obviously came onto the scene, was crushing. Their product is kind of like right now. They're going through a lot of internal transitions, and so Kixie was crushing. All of our agents were on it. Now I'd say about a quarter to half our agents are on it, and then we're also using Wave, another great one, just to make sure that your number is clean. That's another thing to be able to make sure of, especially in telesales, is having a really good clean number. You're not phone dialing, right? Like that's not what you're doing in telesales. You're just going to get wrecked. Your number is most likely going to be coming up as spam, especially when you start knocking on 100, 200, 300 dials a day, which is required, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is a CRM and speed to lead. So calling your leads within
For all the
5 minutes.
time.
Yeah, your Facebook leads, your shelf life is horrible, right? It's not a direct mail lead. It's your shelf life is going to be trash. So speed to lead is very, very, very important. Calling within 5 minutes, triple dialing right away, having texting and automations go out. There's really cool stuff nowadays that a lot of just AI like texting automations that you can have going out, not just automation, but AI, texting back and forth, engaging, having them call in or setting appointments. So there's a lot of different facets within telesales to make it successful. But I would say the more that you can nurture lead, the more that you call. I'll give you an example. I was talking to an agency owner. He's doing about $1 million a month right now, final expense telesales, and a third of their sales come from 0 to day 7. A third of their sales come from day 8 to day 90. And then after day 90, there's another third that comes. And so if you think about that, you have to continue calling the leads every single day, every single week, every single month. Like you have to consistently hit these so that you can actually maximize your return. And a lot of agents don't do that. So I think it's just basic fundamentals, calling your leads quickly and then as many times as possible. And what's nice is there's all these, depends on the scale of the agency that you have. So right now, an LOA, like an LOA free lead call center model, where you have a lot of agents, but you have most of the control that's not broker, use Convoso, right? Which is a crazy, they, it's just insane. You're getting a lot of inbound calls. You just get people to talk to within 15 seconds. You just click in and you don't even dial. It's just already dialing for you, working the
Wow.
leads the way it should. And then boom, you have somebody on the phone, right?
Mhm.
But if you're a solo agent, you just got to be dialing. You got to put these in power lists, 3-line, 5-line, 10-line dialers, and call like that. That's just kind of how you work them. So it definitely is harder up front, but what's nice is you can one call close, and that's just what I teach is like, hey, just one call close. From call to close should take 45 minutes to an hour and 15, and you're done, right? The person signed, you cool down, and so on and so forth. So it's all about getting into. We can talk script, we could talk whatever marketing side, but I think it's important to have a good enough lead that you can hammer the sales process. And so that's what we teach is like, hey, have good enough marketing that these people know what you're talking about, and then let your script and sales do the rest. So the first 3 objections you're going to get right away are going to be already got it taken care of. Hey, I didn't fill that out. You're going to get that rarely, especially if you're calling with speed. And I'm not interested anymore. I mean, that's pretty much it. A lot of it's just going to be already got it taken care of, and you just quickly overcome that. Perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling, just so I can close out your file. Did you get the A, B, or C option? Very curious, right? And they're like, the A option, or like, I thought this was for life insurance, not Medicare, whatever it is, right? And you're like, awesome. Do you remember like how much they were charging you? And they'll be like, $50, $100. Oh, wow, that's really expensive. Was that because you're in really bad health? And they're like, no. And so then they start defending themselves, and boom, now you're in a conversation to at least continue like they continue to stay on the phone, and that's the name of the game, especially right away. Then you can either flip that into a policy review, you can add coverage, you can replace, like there's a lot of different things that you could do on that end. Or if they say, no, I was just looking, awesome, were you looking for anything specific, or just wanted to go over all your options? And then you just kind of go into it, right? Were you looking to just cover the burial or leave a little extra? Did you want to go down the traditional burial route, or the cremation route? Awesome. The way this works is actually really simple. I'm a state licensed underwriter, blah, blah, blah. And then you just go into it, start underwriting. Then you really have them grab a pen and paper and sell them there. And so there's a lot of different situations and scenarios in that. But I think if you have a decent enough lead and a really dialed in sales process, not just on the phone, but just sales in general, calling quickly, calling with a lot of volume, and you have some tools to be able to work in there, you'll be really successful with it, because you only need one sale per day, and you're doing 20 to 30K a month. And then now we're in the spot where we're duplicating that to other agents on the free lead side, but then also the broker side. So I don't know if that answers your question at all.
He just gave out like $10,000 of free information for those that stayed on to the minute 35 of this conversation, Adam. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
most definitely.
Well, I think it's valuable, everything that you shared today, both the good, the bad, the struggles, the successes, the free tips at the end of the video. If somebody wants to connect with you online, if they haven't already, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, just DM me on Instagram. Just say that you came from this podcast, or just hit me up any questions you have. Facebook. You guys actually need to join my Facebook group. We just started. It's just Life Insurance Telesales Mastery. Join that. We're going to be doing weekly calls with top producers. So tomorrow we have our first one, and so I'm excited for that, just to kind of give away a lot of stuff. I don't know if you guys know, but there's a way inside Facebook. It's called the Guides tab. What's nice is you can build out like a course inside there. So we built out a mini course, pretty much going over, if you're a top producer and you want to grow an agency, what does that look like? What does it look like just to hit your first 20K a month in telesales? There's going to be a whole course built out for that, and then other top interviews. So definitely check that out. We're on YouTube, continuing to grow on that. And it's just the beginning. I'm excited, and I'm grateful for you guys having me on here. And I love and support whatever you guys are doing over here. It's helping a lot of agents. It's what people don't know they need to know, and also don't like to hear, but they have to hear, right? So appreciate you guys having me on.
Well said, Johnny. Thanks for being with us today.
And this concludes another episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend or colleague, And if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please leave those too. Any input is greatly appreciated. Thank you.